The first step in writing a summary and response essay is to make sure that you clearly understand what the source you're summarizing is saying. So you guys should have all picked an article to use for this essay. So in other words, you have chosen an article that you are going to summarize and respond to. So before you figure out how you're going to respond or what you even think about the article, you need to make sure that you read it critically, or as our textbook says, read with a critical eye. Now, I know you've read this article before because you've used it in your documented essay, but sometimes looking for a fact or a statistic is different than truly understanding what a person is saying about a particular subject. So I'm going to ask you to dig a little deeper and read very critically the article that you've chosen before you sit down to summarize and respond to it. And this works for anything. These reading steps will help you no matter what it is you're reading in college, whether it is a textbook in a chapter in a textbook or an article for another class, whatever it might be. If you read in this way, I think you'll find that you retain more information and you have a better understanding of the subject matter. So, step number 1 here is to pre-read. Now, what that really means is just looking at titles, subtitles, any sort of headings or divisions that might be in the article, any visuals. Maybe you read the very first paragraph. Maybe you read the last paragraph. You're just getting an overview of what the article is saying. Titles are very telling. And oftentimes the main point of an article will be in its title. So just by doing those few things, looking at the title, looking at the subtitle, understanding who the author is, understanding where the particular piece is published, you get a pretty good understanding of who the audience is and maybe what real big point the author's trying to make. And this pre-reading process should not take you very long at all. So after you look at the title, the author, the subheadings if there are any, and you read the first and the last paragraph, I want you to answer this question for yourself. What do I already know about the topic? Now, you probably know a lot about the topic because we've been talking about this topic the entire semester. So you probably can jot down 5 or 6 things that you already know about the particular topic that the writer's covering. And the next question is, what questions do you want or expect to be answered by the essay or the article? In other words, what do you think the writer is going to do? So this pre-reading activity just engages your brain. So often we sit down to read something and our minds are coming from what we just did, or they're thinking about what we have to do, and we're real distracted when we sit down to read something. So a really good way to center ourselves and get ourselves to focus on the reading task is to do this quick pre-reading exercise. Once you do that, then you can read the article, truly read from beginning to end. And so read the article from beginning to end and just jot down brief notes about your initial reaction. Okay? In other words, as you're reading, make a list. This makes sense. I don't understand this. I even to the point, maybe I think this author is right, or I think this author is wrong, or this is a good point. but just some sort of initial engagement with the text, okay? Then look and see if you can figure out what the larger context is. So in other words, is this author engaging in some ongoing conversation? And what is it? So is this author, what do you think is motivating this author, the writer? That's a good thing to kind of think about. What's this writer's perspective? Is there any clue in the article of what's motivating the writer? And then what arguments or positions do you think this writer is responding to? In other words, is this person writing about a topic that's hot in the field right now? Just what do you think the larger context for this piece is? Is it a psychological piece? Is it more sociological? Is it historical? In other words, what is sort of the context here? And then after you do that, it's time to pick up a highlighter or a pen and get really serious about rereading the article. Now, if you are rereading this electronically, that is completely fine. Go ahead and pull it up and use those annotation tools that you have. So if it's a PDF, and there's a little pen, all kinds of little annotation tools. Or you can always print it out if you choose. So, underline what you think is the main idea of the article. This is what I think this writer is saying. And then as you move through the article, look at each paragraph, or each section, and see if you can identify how the writer is supporting that main idea. Okay, and underline those pieces for yourself. Highlight words and phrases that you think are important. Circle words you don't know and look them up, because sometimes that matters. And you might think a word means something and it means something entirely different that makes the writer's argument different. Write comments or questions in the margins as if you were having a conversation with the author. Maybe use a check to indicate passages you agree with, an X for passages you don't agree with, a question mark for passages that are confusing to you, and maybe an exclamation point for ones you think are important. The bottom line in this step is to figure out the writer's main idea and this writer's supporting points, and to begin thinking a little bit about how you feel about what the writer's saying. Now, the next step is to summarize. And this will be the first assignment that you turn in to me. You will summarize this article. And it's very specific how I want you to do that. Basically, you're going to restate the text's main ideas in your own words. You're going to leave out most examples and most details. A summary for your article really only needs to be about 2 or 3, maybe 4 sentences long. You want an overview of the main idea and the supporting points. Understand that a summary is short and it is unbiased. You never use I in a summary because it's not about what you think. It is about stating what someone else thinks. So you are not writing about in a summary your attitude toward what the writer says. All you're doing in a summary is explaining what someone else is saying, okay? And in the next video after this one, I will go into more specific details about what I want your summary to look like and how to set that up. Finally, to finish this pre-reading process, once you've written your summary, I want you to play what's called a believe and doubt game. And regardless of how you feel about what the writer says, I want you to list as many reasons as you can think of for agreeing or believing the person, and then as many reasons as you can for doubting or disagreeing with what the writer says. This believe and doubt exercise will help you clarify where you stand in relation to the ideas in the text, and it will help prepare you to write your response. So, what I want you to do first is go back and do steps 1 through 4. Once you've done your critical reading and you feel like you understand what the article is about, I want you to watch the next video and look at the next PowerPoint that accompanies it, and then construct your summary for me. Please, as always, let me know if you've got any questions at all.